Welcome back, listeners, to Learning from Friends. My name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that I like to call Learning from Friends. It is great to see you back here for episode, I believe, number 53. So if you've made it this long with us, congratulations. I impress myself every day for being able to continue going forward with this, and I'm so thankful for the audience I have. And if you're new, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Flip back through the archives and find different episodes that work for you because of, there's so many different topics out there. But as those that have been here from the beginning, you all know before I get going into a podcast episode, we have my mom's quote of the day. So, Mom, take it away.
We should be lifting each other up and cheering each other on, not trying to outshine one another. The sky would be awfully dark with just one star.
Thank you, Mom. Your always words of wisdom provides the podcast with that step forward on the right step in the great direction. This episode today, I'm speaking with a coworker that came in around December. We became really good friends throughout the remainder of the school year, and he has a really unique story that I'm learning for the first time really about today. So it's kind of like we're learning about this together. He was riding cross country on a bicycle, and we're going to get a little bit more insight into that world in preview of this book that he's writing. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. I appreciate that. I'm glad to be here.
It's so fun, and it's always hilarious whenever someone just goes, "Hey, Mr. Curtis," or something like that. Because for me, I'm so used to Cade or Curtis, but Mr. Curtis, like you are just so very much like what's the word I'm looking for? Formal individual. It's almost like hey, Mr. Curtis, how you doing? You and your firm handshake, and
you're a teacher at all, man. So you'll always be Mr. Curtis to me,
So. Like, who is Mark Noble? Because, we have all these people that come on my podcast, and about 98.5, I always throw out a random number, 98.5 people have no clue who you are. Give us like a Wikipedia summary of who is Mark Noble.
Mark Noble is a small town Ohioan. I moved down here to Georgia a couple years ago and met my beautiful wife in Ohio. Her parents live down here. And yeah, I work with you over at the school system, but I'm moving over to Cherokee, sadly. So yeah, man, Mark Noble's just a regular old, now Georgian, got a kid and a wife, and yeah.
He's wearing an Ohio State.
And I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm a Browns fan. Come on, man.
Come on. At my table. My table. I would have several members that are going to listen to this and be like, you let an Ohio State fan sit at your table.
People are disgusted, but there's some fans down here, man. I'm surprised.
There totally are. It's just funny. I always like to do that. My wife went to Kent State, and so.
Oh my gosh, did she really?
Yeah, she went to Kent State.
I graduated from the University of Akron.
Oh man,
I played basketball there.
Screw the Roo, man.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. What are the odds? They're everywhere, man.
And this is the cool thing about this conversation that we're going to do is there's still a lot that we're kind of like learning about each other because you came in December after Miss Hedrick left. Like, love her. She moved to DC, and she's probably having a blast right now with all her stuff that she's got going on there. But you came in and you had some like heavy, big shoes to fill there, and you did a phenomenal job.
I appreciate that. I was finding that out as I was going to you never want the person before you to do bad, but like you want them to do worse than you. So it's not, you know what I mean? But man, the more I was working, I was like, man, this chick must have been good. She was good,
amazing.
So, but yeah, so for the listeners, I worked right across the hall from Cade. My room was right across the hall from Cade. So
you were never in there though.
Yeah, that's true. But every morning I'd get to see your bright and smiling face. It's always perky. So
I always try to.
Oh yeah, dude.
And you come in with your firm handshake and your voice of like mysterious voice. That's probably not even a word. Your very like loud, powerful, enjoyable voice, and it was always fun. And every so often I run into you at the gym too.
No, that's Friday we saw each other there
at the gym. Fun. Like this dude sits back and does like reps upon reps of like pull-ups, and I'm like, dude, how in the world do you do this? Like he is jacked.
No, it's not true. That's funny.
So going into this, okay, you rode cross country on a bicycle. Where did you start and where did you end? Like, holy moly. I'm learning this for the first time, y'all, myself. I'm getting the whole inside of this as well. So this is going to be a blast.
So I'll start with the why. So my whole life I grew up in sports and school. So my elementary through high school was school, sports, homework, bed. So I had that schedule, loved it. And then I went to college, or I went to the National Guard, came back, went to college. And in college, I was playing basketball. I was working a job. I was going to school for engineering, and I was running 2 Bible studies.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had a very busy schedule, and there was not a lot of time for adventuring or free time. And I think that set me up for just like this bomb of adventure that wanted to go off in me. And so me and one of my friends, we had been planning some kind of crazy trip after college. Did we want to go? One of the ideas was go to Hawaii and see how long we could live there on just the money we had, just sleep in the sand,
That is
whatever,
cool.
it just sounded awesome. But I don't know, that didn't pan out. Another one was we were going to go train jumping, see if we can make it across the country.
Be a hobo across the country.
Exactly, dude. But we try, there's a couple train stations, but where train goes by,
The little
by around
depots
us.
or whatever.
Yeah. So we went there and we were trying to catch them. We tried this probably 6 or 7 times. Could never catch them, dude. They look like they're going so slow, but they're way faster. So then one of my basketball buddies was like, yeah, my buddy just biked from Alaska to Texas. And we're like, really?
Wow.
So that gave us the idea, maybe we could bike cross. I mean, we're not bikers at all, but we're like, it sounds like a fun adventure.
Oh, I love this already started. Like,
Yeah,
we're not
dude.
bicycles, but we're going to do this.
But we're going to try it. So yeah, we went from Virginia to Oregon. And it wasn't a straight shot. So we went Virginia, Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado. Then we shot up to Wyoming, into Montana, back down through Idaho and over to Oregon. So if you're looking at a map, you can follow that. But it's longer than just going straight across.
How many miles? Do you know how many miles it was?
Yeah, it was about 4,063. So it's almost double what it is straight across the country. I think it's 2,000 something across the country. So yeah, dude, it was
4,063 miles. How long did it take you guys to do it?
I think it took us 82 or 83 days. We were in no rush. Took Sundays off. We went to church. And then when we found a hot spot, like a spot we were really liking, we'd stay there for a couple of days, maybe sometimes overstay our welcome a little bit. So yeah,
what year was this?
This was 2018. It was I was 25. We were just getting out of college, so I think my buddy was 24. We actually 2 of us or 3 of us total started the trip. I think he was going through a lot of things at the time, so he ended up not making it. But
I can only imagine going across country, what your whole entire mentality and stuff goes through, which is something we'll talk about. But man, 4,063 miles. There's 3 of you guys started out, 2 of you guys finish it. There's a lot to unpack here on that. In 2018, you said that you did this. So 2 years before the world shut down too on that. So in 83 days, it's like around the world in 82 days, around the world in 80 days. Man, you did it across.
people do it much faster.
But no, still, that's pretty amazing. Did y'all go out and buy these crazy awesome bikes, or did y'all just get on, hey man, we went to Walmart and just bought 2 bikes and just kind of went for it? What did you do?
I mean, my personality is to just go to Walmart and do that, but we're like, we want to get something that's going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Which I never thought a bike could snap. Actually, I was just training for an Ironman and I had a bike snap. And I was like, I didn't know that could happen. And so fortunately, we did not have just an aluminum bike. We got a Jameis Aurora. We went up to Cleveland, Ohio, and talked to some people, and they gave some advice, and that's what they decided. I mean, it's an ugly bike, but it is durable.
It doesn't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, you could.
True.
My Prius is beat to junk and back,
But it runs.
But that thing runs like a boss.
Gets you place to place, man.
Exactly. It doesn't matter about beauty. It's a matter of getting there. And
Yep.
here, whenever you left, when did you leave? Did you go during summer? Did you go in the fall? Did you go in the winter? What time did you wind up disappearing? Wow, that's not the greatest word.
School ended mid-May, I think May 14th or something. I actually missed graduation to leave. We left May 17th.
I bet your parents were happy about that one.
They don't really care. I did not have the best grades in college,
But you got a degree.
I got the degree, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, we left mid-May and got back August 10th. I had to be back for a wedding, so we were on a time.
Did y'all fly back or did you ride?
Yeah,
back?
we did, man. We flew back. So we were in Oregon.
So the bikes are left behind somewhere.
No, we flew the bikes back.
Oh,
that was a
okay.
scramble.
I bet you that was interesting.
It was. We had we only had 1 day left, and we had no way to get our bikes home. Luckily, Kyle. I'm jumping forward here, but
dude, no, there is no order. This is just a hey man, whatever you feel like telling your story.
Yeah,
I will pull us back to wherever we need to go. You're leading the bike. I'm just on tandem.
All right.
Back.
Well, we're gonna jump straight to the end right here for a second. So when we got to the end, we had a couple of days of free time. We got so bored. We're like, we just need to get to Portland because that's where we're flying out of. Kyle called some friends of his who lived in Portland, and they drove 3 hours down to get us in our bikes, and then drove, so 6 hours total. I mean, and
That's some good friends.
Some great friends, and I don't even know them. So, and they're just Kyle's college friends. It's not like he grew up with them. Right? So just great people. And they found us a place to ship our bikes and everything. So we shipped them back. I've still got it.
Good.
It's a piece of junk now.
Hey, dude, the story of it itself is the bike held up. The bike made you from point A to point B. And you could look at it like biblically as well in some weird form or fashion of like how, like, this is my noble steed that I made it here. And, like this journey transcended my life of where from now that I, went from being a child to a man of going through this whole entire process. So, okay, Kyle, you said you met him in college, or have you known him longer than that?
No, so Kyle, man, me and Kyle grew up together. We have been best buddies for a long time. We lost touch after high school. We kind of went our separate ways. We had different things that we enjoyed to do. And then in college, I was doing a Bible study. I was the young adult leader for a church up in Alliance, Ohio. And he just happened to be...
sorry. I love hearing all the names.
Do you know Alliance?
I know Alliance.
Shut up. Yes. Yeah. I worked at Alliance Friends Church. And he went to college a mile down the road. And I got to hit him up. Maybe he'll come, and invite some friends. And so he did, man. He invited some friends. And so we reconnected through that. And we started adventuring. The summer before this trip, we were doing crazy adventures. We were climbing 200-foot bridges and, I don't know, jumping off some crazy stuff, a bunch of skydiving.
Was this when you also broke your foot at one point?
No, that was 2 years ago. No, that was dumb.
Dude, that's amazing to think that. And I'm blessed over the years to have had some great friends that we've done all kinds of different stuff too, but you never know where paths lead you back and forth. And I'd say a Bible study really kind of recreated my life as well. I had a friend that we were not in the best of terms in high school, and we kind of just were in different spheres, different groups of people and stuff, and we just never got along. And then all of a sudden he started a Bible study about maybe 5 years ago. And man, we got together and I go, man, we didn't get along in high school. We never had this kind of friends. And look where God kind of brought us together and changed the whole entire life perspective there. And now we're really good friends, man.
He's got a good plan. I mean, the nice thing, he knew what he was doing, bringing us back together in this whole trip, because we kind of used it as a missionary trip. Because he has a lot of qualities that I lack, and I have qualities that he lacked, and so
that's what makes good friendships.
Exactly,
when you complete each other.
That's
Same
how
with marriages too.
Yes, that's how me and my wife are. I mean, we're so different, but we work because we fill each other's differences.
That's the best part about a marriage, is it should be that way. Because if I would not want to be married to myself, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be a wreck. This house would be destroyed, and it would just.
Gosh, I'd be so annoyed if I married myself.
Same here. Same here.
My wife will love to hear me say that, but
well, that's kind of part of it. Everybody has their own piece of the puzzle and kind of drags that in. And for you, having Kyle to push you forward to do this adventure of, you had all these different ones that could have been, and the bicycle one is really kind of what took you out. So was this just a solo you two together, or did this turn into a missionary? You said missionary trip kind of ideology here. What was the whole big backing behind this trip here?
I think twofold. I think wherever we go, I think both of us would say this, we represent Jesus and we want to spread his message. And so in that sense, this was a missionary trip. But I think selfishly, this was a trip that it was more like me and him wanted an adventure. And so we were going to go on this adventure, and we're going to bring God along with us. So I think I would have pursued things differently now. Man, God, is this something you want us to do? Instead of, we're going to do this and bring you with us, God. And
Come
I think,
on, get my
exactly.
Pocket. Let's go backpack.
And man, I think he worked in the trip, but I don't think we handled it the right way the first time, but it was.
Well, you did handle it.
Yes.
He was there.
Yep,
he was. Purpose for meetings. That's the whole thing of.
Dude, it was. We met a lot of people, man. It was.
What's the quote? Humans make plans and God laughs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the whole thing. You never can tell where your road's going to winding up in that whole process. And my wife and I never planned on being back here when we first started talking and dating, and now here we are, and that's kind of the big purpose right now of this is where we are and this is where we need to be. And
it's crazy, man. Its plan is wild, like you're saying, goes everywhere, But like even the bad times, like you going through that thing in South Carolina,
Yeah.
I bet you can appreciate this job and this place so much more.
Oh yeah,
And-
so much.
And you have so much more experience because of it. So it sucked in the time. But like this weekend, dude, me and my wife had probably the biggest fight we've ever had. We did not talk for 2 days. And last night, we finally squashed it yesterday. Last night I was just like, babe, like, man, I'm thankful for this because I appreciate you all the more. I
There you
appreciate
go.
our relationship all the more. So his plan is good, man.
Everything has its rhyme or reason and purpose to unfold and tell us a story. And
That's
it may
right.
not happen immediately. It may take 2 years. It may take 6 weeks. It may take 2 days.
Exactly.
Just to kind of let you know where it goes. And I think it's healthy in order to have that little bit of a spat in
Yep.
order to realize, oh man, maybe there was something I was doing that wasn't actually helpful or good. And now we're getting it out in the open and settling it and squashing it. Now
Absolutely,
it's done.
my man. Absolutely.
So this was a missionary trip in a way, but also kind of started out as it's an adventure. We're
Right.
kind of rolling.
right.
And you said Virginia was your start place. You said you were in Ohio. How did Virginia become the start place?
Man, you gotta hit the coast. We wanted to.
You want to go coast to coast.
I didn't think about this until people were saying it on the trip that we were meeting. But it's a transcontinental. So like we're going across the whole, not just we're going across the country, because you can go across many countries, but we're going across the whole continent. So it's kind of cool to be able to say, hey man, we're going the whole continent. So we started in Virginia because we wanted to dip our tire in the ocean, in
That
the
is
Atlantic.
so cool.
And then dip our tire in the Pacific. And so
Did the same tires make it to both sides?
no, they did not. Yeah, we had
The
to-
bike did though. The bike did.
Dude, that was so. Remember, we did not know what we were doing going into this. We were
That
not
makes me
bike people.
so excited to know that you had no idea what you were
No
doing.
idea, dude. So the first time that a tire went flat was in the middle of Virginia, like 6 days in or something. And my tire went flat. Nowhere, no Walmart, nothing for 30 miles. And okay, I say this, I don't know if that's true. I had no service at the time.
It started out as 2 miles, and then as it's gone on, the story has gotten to 30.
Exactly. I honestly don't know the actual distance, but we were in the middle of nowhere. And so I just assumed that it would be a long trip. We had 4 spare tubes. We did 3 of them. We tried 3 of them. We had no idea what we were doing. Popped all 3 of them trying to fix it.
Oh man.
And on the 4th one, finally Kyle walked somewhere, got some YouTube, and figured out what we were doing wrong. And we were pinching the tire when we were putting it back in, and so we figured it out on the 4th. But man, it would have been bad.
I remember doing that when I was in Ireland, of putting a tube into the small. I'm not used to the small itty bitty tires, like the road ones that are for those people that are doing like the crazy long distance, not long distance, but the speed biking.
Yeah.
I remember having one of those and trying to figure out how to put the tube in, because you could pinch it really easily
Yeah, dude.
if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
And you said you were doing it at dark.
No,
You said?
it was during the day. It was during
Okay.
the day. Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah. I was about to say, did you pull a wheelie and just ride on a wheelie?
Yeah,
for
the whole way.
Miles? Just like, we had to do what we had to do. So no planning. You went down to Virginia Beach. You stuck your tire in the ocean, and you're like, "Hey, we're gonna start getting this kind of going." What was the thought process of originally going? We're gonna pick this date, and we're just kind of gonna go like. This doesn't happen immediately overnight, as you said.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of got from, you were doing all these other ideas. You tried to hitchhike on a train. You're thinking
Yeah.
about going to, Hawaii. How did it eventually turn to, we're doing this bike trip?
So there was some planning to this. So we came up with the idea the September before. I think that's 8 or 9 months.
Somewhere along those rounds.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
math right now. We're in the summer break.
I
Math later.
don't have to worry about that till the fall. Yeah, we had 7 or 8 months of planning. It was really me and Dylan, this other guy. Kyle is he wasn't not there, but he has so much going on in his life
man.
that he wasn't really that much part of the planning. And a lot of the planning was raising money. Not for us. So we were raising money. We were earning money. We were working and saving money because it costs, including the bike, $3,500
To do the whole
food,
trip?
yeah, for everything.
Per person?
Yeah, per person. So we had to save up that money, but we were also raising money for Compassion International. I don't know if you're familiar with them
I
at all.
am not. I'm going to have to look that up later. Compassion International.
So Compassion International, they work with kids in lower developed countries, and they provide schooling and you can sponsor a kid. It's a thing where you can sponsor a kid for $35 a month to give them school supplies and things like that.
There's going to have a link for this as a heads up in the end of the episode. I'm going to take links to kind of post. So if someone's like, hey, what is that? I'll have a link in the description of the podcast.
So we were raising money for that, and also earning money. And then I guess there really wasn't that much planning, because then we found a route. It's called the Transamerican Trail, and people do it every year. And then we bought some gear, and that was it.
So what kind of gear did you wind up buying? Because, okay, you bought bikes.
Yeah, we bought bikes.
And that probably cost you $500 to $1,000 in that range.
Yeah, $1,000
So
bike.
you automatically have $3,000 going in there on that. What kind of backpacks? How did you pack your bags?
Yep.
What kind of gear are you guys taking with you?
That's a good question. So we had 4 panniers. Do you know what a pannier is?
I have no idea.
So a pannier it's basically a bag that can fit on your tire. And you can put them on both sides of your bike on both tires. So you can have 4 of them. And they're not very big, but
Still, there's a lot of space there that goes down flat. in a
yeah,
way.
exactly.
Like the side of a motorcycle, kind of like flaps kind of deal that goes down that you can be able to switch stuff in?
Ish.
Okay.
Very similar. And so, we bought a sleeping pad to sleep on.
Okay.
We bought single person tents, and it's only like this. It's, for the people listening, it's 4 by 4 by a 1.5 feet. It's not very big.
You're a tall dude. How did your
But
feet
it's
go
6
off the
feet
side?
long. I mean, yeah. So my
you're-
head and my feet are hidden, but
Yeah, you're 6 feet, like what, 2?
6'2", yeah, man. But I slept great the whole trip because I sleep good on hard surfaces. I don't know. It was great. And then what else? I had my computer because we were kind of documenting things. And then, just food. That was pretty much it.
I guess you had a little tool pack on the bottom.
Repair kit, yeah, and a pump. So
you have the little side pouches.
you have 4 side
stuff,
pouches.
4 side pouches. You had your tent. You had your pad. You had your laptop kind of going through, and you're hitting the ground running. It's pretty smart, kind of making it simple and easy to be able to have all your stuff. And you're not having to carry that weight on your back either.
Yeah, dude, it's all on the bike. And it made our bikes, my bike was, I think all of ours were about 75 pounds. Well, me and Kyle's were 75 pounds. Dylan's, I think, big downfall is me and Kyle are not planners. And so we're like, this is good enough. We'll figure it out on the way kind of thing, which actually normally
It worked out for you?
does not work out for us. But it did work out for us in this case because we didn't need more. We actually ended up sending things back. But Dylan, way overpacked. I mean, he had chess games, frisbees. He had everything we could, in case we get bored.
Dude, that is
He had
amazing,
everything,
though,
man.
that idea. Someone's got to be the mom in the group.
He
and
is,
have things
dude.
prepared.
Exactly. I said that in my book. He is the mom in the group. Like, we desperately needed him because we're too immature and bad at planning to figure that thing out on our own.
23 years old. Yeah, you're still like, your mind is still kind of running. You just got out of college. You're still
Who
thinking
cares? We'll figure it out.
I could take on the world. I'm still invincible.
Exactly. And that's where we were.
And you don't have that responsibility kind of back home of, wife or kids yet. And the rent's not really there, kind of like a mortgage kind of. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We can kind of make this work.
For sure.
I remember those days of trying to kind of pull off random schemes and stuff. I remember driving from Georgia up to Kentucky, over to Virginia Beach, and down to Savannah. And then we gave up in Savannah and came back home. But we never thought about getting on a bicycle. We thought about hitchhiking one time on a train, but we got on, and then it was kind of okay, we're on, but we don't even know where we're going. This could probably end bad. So we wound up getting off. But that's really neat to be able to have all those different personalities, though, that were on that trip. Because as you said, like trying to keep your mind fresh and mentality kind of going.
Yep.
How in the world do you mentally prepare for that? Because you can prepare your body. How do you mentally prepare that?
We did neither. We did not train for this.
Oh, man.
And we did not mentally prepare for this. I think our mental prepare was we'd all hang out and we would daydream about all the cool things we were going to do. And to be honest, a lot of those things either ended up happening or cooler things ended up happening. But we did not prepare, and it bit us, especially early on.
But you said you played basketball.
I did. I played basketball. It ended, it took me an extra year to graduate because I failed Math 3, or Calc 3.
Aren't you going to be teaching math at
Yeah.
this location?
Yeah.
Sounds like me I taught English for a little while, and I was like, why are you putting this? I have a reading and writing disability. Why? But I'm like, okay, cool, let's do this.
Well, if I can teach it, then, they should be able to understand it because
That's the truth.
I wasn't that great at math, but But yeah, so I had a whole year off where I was able to get. I wasn't out of shape actually because I was training. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, so I was training with these SEAL guys, and so I was actually in pretty good shape.
That's why you're jacked. That
But
makes sense.
but it's not bike shape, man. Running
It's a
shape
different world.
is different muscles. In fact, when I did my Ironman, I was dead after it was 116 miles on the bike. Dead. My legs were killing me. And then I had to go into a marathon. I was like, no way, we're gonna make this. Get off the bike, I feel so fresh because it's completely different muscle.
Yeah.
So I was in shape, but not in biking shape.
Dude, that's nuts of going out of college, training with the Navy, you said the Navy SEALs?
Yeah,
Was it training
some
with the Navy
guys who were
SEALs?
training to be SEALs.
So you've got that going on. What about your buddies? Like, did they have a
No,
sports background?
Yeah, so my one buddy, Kyle, he wrestled in college. He was actually a pretty good wrestler. He was nationally ranked. And then my other buddy Dylan, he did neither, didn't do any sports, but he is a natural athlete. So
So it worked out in that range for him.
physically, it would have been fine for all of us. Yeah,
I can.
but it was a struggle at the
Yeah, I was
beginning,
about to
dude.
say. I was like, that sounds like
My legs
not the
hurt
best.
so bad. Like, so where were we? Kentucky. Okay. I'm gonna get into the story here.
Dude, I love side stories. It helps create a giant picture here.
So
I'm gonna close my eyes for a second. Go for it.
so Dylan had left us and he came back in Kentucky. Okay. And when he came back, we had this great week with him and it was awesome. But Kyle had to go back to Ohio for a wedding. So we put a pause on this trip. Me and Dylan stopped at this little place called Owensboro, Kentucky, while Kyle went because he was the best man in this wedding. So we found a place to stay at this. It's like kind of a YMCA for kids.
Cool.
And we were desperate because we were going church to church, house to house. Nobody was letting us stay with them.
Sounds like the disciples here at this point now. It's
Yes,
like, man.
dude. It's similar. So we knocked on this door and this lady named Olga let us in. She's like, oh my gosh, come in. So we were tired and sweating. It was so hot. Sat us down, brought us a bunch of Gatorades, a bunch of food, a bunch of snacks. And she's like, you guys, you can stay here for the weekend. And she hooked us up. She let us go back to her
Nice.
house. I mean, it was awesome. But so we were hanging out. So what we did with while Kyle was gone was we were hanging out with all these kids because this was a day program. So we went swimming with them and we had the best time with them. But then we went back and all the kids gathered around this huge circle. There's like 100 of them.
Cool.
And there's this one kid who plays basketball in college. And he's like, you guys need to play because they knew that I play basketball. And so we were playing one-on-one, dude, and I could barely walk.
Oh, man.
I was like Bambi on ice because my legs were so sore. I'm just embarrassing myself. But like, that's how my legs were the whole time because the whole, first 2 states, because my legs were not used to it. And you don't rest. You don't rest to recuperate. Your legs are just always sore until they get used to it.
That was the one thing I was going to ask eventually as well is like, man, how do you, because usually in a workout situation, you got to pause for a day or so in order to regroup your body to let the muscles that have been essentially tearing in order for it to kind of like heal back up to continue going. But it sounds like you were saying, screw it, let's keep going.
Yeah, man. I mean, I knew we were kind of on a time crunch and I knew it was just like, look, man, you just have to suck it up and do it. I mean, we both knew that.
I'm glad you didn't tear anything.
No, yeah, but you're right. Like the first part of Virginia is pretty flat, the first 2 days. And then you start getting into rolling hills, kind of like subtle evidences that the mountains are coming. And then you get to the mountains. Virginia and Kansas were the worst states. And Virginia, because the hills are straight
up because you're going through the Appalachian Mountains.
Straight up, straight down. And so it's a leg shredder.
But going down, I bet you felt nice.
Going down, it felt nice, but it was so much faster.
I bet it felt scary at some points too, because like your brakes ran out.
True. It was so much faster. So the 4th day in, we came up on Charlottesville, Virginia, which is a home of
It's like a mining town.
University, Virginia. No, it's a city.
Okay, never mind.
It might be.
I'm thinking of something else probably.
But it's so we were asking around like, where can we stay at? Does anybody know? We're new to the trip. We don't really know how to handle these things yet. And everyone's like, yeah, we wouldn't stay here because there's a homeless problem and they steal everything. And so we were already 60 something miles in and it was a hilly day. Legs are shredded and midnight came around. We still had no place to stay. I was like, Kyle, dude, we just got to go to the next town. Well, the next town was Lexington.
Oh, wow.
Which is 83 miles away. And it's another city. and it goes over the largest mountain on the East Coast.
Oh, so you're
And the
literally
steepest,
now.
but we didn't know that,
Oh,
dude.
wow.
I tell you, we left at midnight. It was flat to the base of the mountain. It took us 3 hours to get to the base of the mountain. At the base of the mountain, I looked at my map. I'm like, dude, it's 3 miles up. We'll be fine. We just got to keep chugging. At the most, it's going to take us an hour and a half. We can walk a mile and a half, our bikes up the hill. So we're walking. Hour goes in, hour and a half goes by. I'm like, Kyle, hey, man, we got to be almost there. 2 hours comes.
Nothing.
Kyle, we got to be almost there, man. 3 hours comes. Are you kidding? I'm yelling. Kyle's behind me just screaming.
3 o'clock in the
What is
morning.
happening,
Yeah.
dude? 8 a.m. is when we finally reached the top.
Wow.
I completely miscalculated the distance to the top. It was 16 miles from the base to the top of the
Oh,
mountain.
man.
5 hours of just agony, dude. It was miserable. So then we went down the mountain, and I knew there was another hill, but I didn't think it was very big. 'Cause on the
And
hill,
you're doing this in the dark.
No, so it's 8 a.m. now. So
Okay,
the sun has now come up. And we get to the bottom of the hill. We see a hill. Okay. And we start going to the mountain. 15, 20, 30 minutes. Still no top. We're struggling, cramping, no water. And 2 hours goes, and we finally make it back to the top. And we're just like, dude, Kyle, I look at Kyle, and he is struggling at this point because he's just very skinny. His face is like welted in. His eyes are, oh my gosh, his skin was so burnt because it was noon.
The
was
sun's
coming up.
coming out, and then
Dude.
you're already dehydrated, so it's adding more to the element.
He looked so bad. So I walked back. I was like, are you good, man? Like, are you going to be able to keep going? We haven't seen a ton of cars. And he's like, I'll be fine, but we need to get somewhere quick. And so the next house, so we were finally at the top of the hill. It was about noon, and we went down the hill. And the first house we came to, we went to this lady's house, and she hooked us up. But man, it was
See, that's cool
horrible.
right there, of connecting in with people, because that's something that I always be like, okay, where are you staying? How are you going to make this work?
Yeah.
And it seems like y'all are just, again, flying by the seat of your pants
Yep.
and going, let's start banging on doors, and hopefully no one's going to like hurt us, kind of deal. And that's God's grace of taking you where you
for
need to go.
sure, man. Our second night. So first night we slept in the woods. We had no idea what to do. We were in Jamestown, Virginia. There was nowhere to sleep. Pouring down. So we
Ooh.
slept in the woods naked because all our stuff was drenched.
All
And
the
it was
ge-
freezing.
yeah.
So it was so cold. We got up at 4:30 or 5 because we were so cold. We didn't sleep. We just left because we were so whatever.
Please
But-
tell me you didn't get back on the bikes naked. and
No,
started
we
riding on the
definitely
bikes
put
naked.
clothes
Okay,
back on.
Okay. You
And we
don't-
were separated. We weren't naked together.
You don't need
Make that clear.
a felony here of indecent exposure.
No, dude. So we got back on the bikes, and a little while into our ride, both of us get a warning about the same time on our phone. Flash flood warning. Like,
Oh,
no.
gosh.
And so we're only 30 miles in. We got to make it 60. Rain starts coming down, dude. It's crazy. And so we only make another 15, 20 miles before like our tires are like 2 or 3 inches. It's pedaling 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, it's
of
like going in
water.
mud essentially at that point.
It's horrible. We could barely go anywhere. We'd been riding through the rain for hours. And so we're like, look, we just got to go house to house. We got to figure something out. And so we did. We went house to house. People were saying no. I finally came up to this house, rural Virginia, farmer town. Came up on a farm. Knock, knock, knock. Guy answers, hey, man, can we just sleep on your porch? We just want to be dry. That's it. Hold on one second. Goes back, gets his dad. I'll tell you what, man. I will shoot you if you make any kind of move right now. You hear me? I will shoot you. You can stay
My
here,
gosh.
but I want to shoot you if you... Okay, come follow me. So he follows us. We follow him back. He takes us to his garage. Ushers us into the garage. Closes the garage door. Stay in here. Close the door. Completely dark. Me and Kyle are just sitting there like, what is going on? Like, I want out of there.
So it's like a horror movie.
Oh my gosh, dude. And he comes back. I need one person. Kyle goes with him. He's like, I don't know what happened, but they were figuring out some meal thing for us. So long story short, they ended up being just awesome. He's an ex-Marine. They ended up taking us in. They took us to get some Chinese food, and we stayed with them for the night, and they made us breakfast, and we prayed together and everything. It was awesome. But it was scary at first. I thought we were going to die.
I don't blame him for being extra cautious on
No.
coming in.
He was drinking too. He was drunk.
Oh,
So that had a lot to do with it.
that adds another element. But
Mhm.
I feel if you put fear in somebody first and then you come off of it and
Yep.
calm down, I guess it kind of makes it a little bit of trustworthiness to it in a way.
Yep.
But I bet the bikes made a big difference as well for communities that, hey man, we're riding bikes cross country, we have this gear. I bet that kind of helped a little bit.
If we are going to steal something, we're not going to get far.
That's true. So now, are you
You'll
wearing
find us on the
like?
bike.
Are you wearing bike shorts kind of deal? Are you just doing blue jeans or what are you doing?
Yeah, bike shorts, regular shorts on top of that, and then just a shirt.
Yeah, because if you don't wear bike shorts, you are going to
Dude.
rip your bottom up.
4,000 miles in, it doesn't matter. You have the worst gooch rash in the world. The whole time. Doesn't matter, man. You can use nut butter. You can use any kind of cream you want. It's not going away. It's just part of...
True.
And you just learn, and it sucks at first, but you just learn that, like, look, this is how it is, and we'll get over it.
I had no clue and understanding of it until my wife and I are dating, and I go up, and like, oh, that's, we're going to go for a bike ride, and they're like, okay, here's some bike shorts. And I go, no, man, what are you talking about? I don't need any bike shorts. And he goes, no, you better put these bike shorts on, or you're going to regret it. And I put them on. I go, okay, cool. This makes sense and everything. And then at another point, I was like, oh, I'm not going to wear bike shorts, whatever.
Oh,
and I regretted it. Like,
what were you wearing?
I was just wearing regular shorts, like what I'm wearing right now.
Dude,
and
it's a killer, man.
It was chafing galore.
So uncomfortable.
Like, yeah, I couldn't even imagine. And then as you were talking about weather and rain makes things so much worse as it is. And luckily the bike shorts are somewhat like they dry quickly. There's the wicking stuff to it. So that kind of makes it a little easier. But and having y'all had smartphones. And so I bet you that made life so much easier to be able to the weather watch that you kind of had come up on there. And I bet every so often pulling up a map too kind of made it a little easier.
So I had a map on my phone that could be accessible offline because a lot of it is in rural country. Most of the trip is all in rural country. Very rarely did we come. I think we came up on 4 cities the whole time.
That's
so it's
nice.
Very rural.
That is nice.
Like Waleska, Georgia, which for you guys who don't know, it's, I don't know, not very many people.
There is only thing up there is a university.
Yes. And it's very small university.
Yeah, you got Reinhardt, and then you got a couple. Yeah, you got a couple things. There's a Waffle House now too.
What?
So there's a Waffle House.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got 2 gas stations, I think it is.
Yeah,
I like it up there.
Gas station, Dollar General.
Yeah, I love it up there.
But yeah, that's how it was, man. There was little 500 people town, and just no service. So you had to have something without service.
Yeah, offline is going to make the biggest of difference.
Yeah.
To be able, I remember we were in Ireland going across from Dublin to Galway, and it's like we got the offline map because you never know when service is going to be in place, and also if your phone's going to work. And just in general of having that, and one of the times where technology can be a very positive thing.
Dude, if you use it the right way, man, it can be a great thing, but it can be a Achilles heel as well.
It can be, yeah. I think it was interesting. The guy who but like advanced artificial intelligence just resigned from his position, saying,
I saw that.
We're moving too fast.
I saw that.
So it's already funny making. I'm an old man with like technology stuff as it is, and so I'm like, I'm gonna be a very bitter, angry old man, being like, get off my lawn. My wife made fun of me the other day because there was a woodpecker banging on the side of our siding, and I got outside and I'm like, I see you out there. I'm gonna get you. And Katie goes, you just passed a whole nother threshold of your old man stuff. And
you stepped into a new phase of old man.
I am my bitter, angry old man, and it's okay. But it works every time our technology goes out at school. I'm like, we don't need technology to teach in my classroom. Let's go.
That's hilarious.
No, does it work? Yeah, it does work. But I went sideways. I love that, though. That was a good little bit there. But I want to come back into the weather. That you said you had the issue with the flooding.
Yep.
What other weather experiences did you guys have to deal with?
I mean, the whole first week, man, I heard somebody say this. Now, I can't confirm this, and I never looked if it was true. But I heard somebody say that it's the most rain that Virginia had ever had in their history. Or maybe it had been 20 years. I don't know. It was a big period of time. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it was a ton, man. We were riding through so much rain. So we didn't know what the sun was for the first week. But again, that made us appreciate when the sun did come out in Kentucky, in the latter part of Kentucky. It was still really hilly, but we started enjoying the sun a lot more. And then Illinois was literally the perfect state. It was flat, not windy, and the perfect weather. But we were only there for like 2 or 3 days. But then, so that's the weather there. As we made our way into Missouri, Kansas, so hot.
You're in the summer too.
It was 100, 103, 104.
Oh.
And so what we did in Kansas, so as you can imagine, when you go our biking, you would think Kansas is going to be your safe haven. Flat.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be flat and like the wind come rushing down. What's this song?
Well, you should go
Oklahoma,
west to east because that's where the winds go. We were going east to west.
Oh, so you're getting pushed backwards,
dude. It was a crawl. We were going so slow, and so we did one day, and we only made it 20 miles, and we're like, we're just gonna ride through the night. So all of Kansas, we ended up riding dusk to dawn, through the nighttime. So
well, if it's cooler at night, it does make it a little easier.
It wasn't windy and it was cooler,
and definitely with it being flat kind of helps out too of getting across and have these little itty bitty headlights and kind of keep going because you're not doing windy roads at that point as well. So I guess that kind of works out.
Very true. You had the moon. Most of the time, it was clear skies, so the moon lit up everything. Because there's no trees or anything. So we would turn off our lights. We actually got pulled over 3 days in a row by the cops for not having lights on. But,
man.
Yeah, dude, it was a good time.
So did y'all take days where like, hey, we need to pause for 2 or 3 days and just kind of recoup and kind of things back in?
We did. So day 3, 3 days in.
Early days in.
We just come off a very rainy and very hilly ride. It was our first really hilly ride. And we went to a Mexican restaurant, a very small town. All they had was a fire station and a Mexican restaurant. And we're just eating. And
I bet you that meal was one of your favorite meals of all time.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I love when you get to the point of like, I just need to eat food. Like, this is the best thing ever.
Yes, dude. And, Mexican, all you can eat chips.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's true.
So we're sitting there eating. What's wrong with you guys? Why are you all wet? And I hear it, and I'm like, I'm not even paying attention to anybody. I'm so tired. Why are you guys all wet? And so I start looking around, and this old couple, like, talking to us. And so we go over there and start talking. And then our food arrives, come back, start eating. And they go to leave, like, hey, what are you guys doing tonight? Like, we're going to sleep out front of the fire station because that's the only option we got. Come stay at our place. Oh, heck yeah. Like, that's the nice thing about this bike trip. Anything God provides, you're just pumped about.
Yeah, you just
food,
ride it.
water,
just do it.
Shelter. So we're thinking, this is awesome. They're like, you can sleep in our basement. I'm like, okay, thinking an old cemented basement. It'll be cold, but it'll be dry.
True.
So we get there, and it's a mansion, dude. They have a lake in their backyard. I mean, it's like a castle almost. And we're like, Wes, this guy worked for NASA. We didn't know you were rich. Like, yeah, you didn't ask. But yeah, man, we went canoeing, we went kayaking. We're like, so we overstayed our welcome though. Can we stay another day or two? And so we ended up staying with them for a couple of days.
I don't blame you at that
But we
point.
did that often when we found good places.
That's the thing. If you do find a good spot, being able to recoup.
You
and
overstay your welcome for sure.
Your body needed it at that kind of point. Going through and back riding at night, getting soaked. Did you guys ever get sick along the way?
I got sick one time towards the end in Oregon. I didn't throw up or anything, but it made the rides miserable. And so every time we stopped, I would just sleep as much as I could, but it wasn't that bad.
Where was it that Dylan kind of had to leave out?
So Dylan, this is one of those things again, man, where God was working because Dylan lost his dad a couple years ago.
Okay.
And I think going into this, he was in this mental like craze. And I didn't know this at the time until talking with him after. And so when we started the trip, again, it was rainy and it was not fun. And so he actually left the first day. His mom came and picked him up the first day. And so a couple weeks later, he would come back and he would ride with us for a week. And it was great. It was the best week of the trip for sure because there was 3 people. There's no
Everybody
tension between
has
me and
different
Kyle.
stuff talking.
Yes, there's no pressure between 2 people to figure it out. And it was great until another rainstorm, a huge rainstorm hit. Thunder, lightning, it was going crazy. We're going down fast because we were trying to get through the rain, down this back trail in the woods. And I see this little raccoon walk out. And as Dylan's going by, this thing just takes off. And takes out his bike.
Oh,
dude, and drilled him. And so I went back to see Kyle because he wasn't with us either. So I was going to go tell him. And then I came back to see Dylan, and I didn't know where Dylan went. And we ended up...
The raccoon got him.
Literally. I mean, we didn't see him the rest of the time. He left. He went back home.
Oh, so he was just gone.
That was kind of his breaking. And so there's a lot of redemption to the story. Like at the end, we were all still great buddies. He bought us this cool thing to do at the end. He's now kind of going on these crazy backpack adventures, leading Marines. So God has like used this full circle story with him. But But yeah,
Sometimes you need that challenge to kind of push you.
It was, man, and
Yeah.
it worked out. Like he called me the other day. He's like, dude, I know how you felt on the bike trip now, and like I can appreciate everything that I've been through because now I'm leading people and I'm seeing people do the same thing that I did, So it was, man, just a God.
So what state was it that he kind of, or
Illinois is when he
Illinois.
came back.
Okay.
Kentucky into Illinois, and then left at the end of Illinois.
Man, that's
Actually,
so
we were
cool.
crossing over. I'm sorry, it was Kentucky. We were crossing over into Illinois.
Yeah, I can only imagine if it was me and one other friend, or I could pick from like 5 or 6, and I think all of them would wind up destroying me partway through the trip because I talk way too much and I kind of get into
It's
this
anybody,
one-term
man.
phase. It's true. When you get on a trip for a long period of time with somebody, you really have to have established a good rapport and an understanding of what's gonna happen.
Yes, dude. There's a lot of things we would do differently because there's a lot of tension for anybody. We met a lot of traveling couples, friends, and just a lot of tension because it's stressful. You're with the same person the whole time. You run out of things to talk about. One of you wants to get up and go at this time. There's just a lot of factors.
Negotiations.
At the end of it, the smallest things end up being like a big thing, So
Psychologically, it was
the most challenging part of the trip for sure.
How did you keep yourself occupied whenever you weren't, say, talking, or that you were trying to kind of go and he's ahead of you or he's behind you? How do you keep your mind sane psychologically?
So the further on we went into the trip, the less talking there was, just because you run out of things to talk about.
That I can believe.
So we listened to a lot of music, a lot of podcasts. Well, that gets old eventually, especially when you're doing that 8 hours a day.
Yes.
And so a lot of it is praying, trying. One of our things is we want to be as present as possible. What is God showing us right now on this trip? And so a lot of it was just kind of analyzing things that were going on, but a lot of it was just sitting and being really bored. There's a lot of parts I think, like if I just think about on the surface of my mind, I'm like, this trip was so fun. But when I really think about it, I'm like, man, that was actually pretty
always
tough.
Looking back at something, you have that nostalgia factor.
Exactly, dude.
Yep.
Exactly.
Always have the nostalgia factor, but really, in all honesty, it's like this was hell on wheels.
It was really hard, yep.
Because I remember doing several trips with friends, and I'll use the example of we were in Iceland and driving around, and it got to a point where I was so hungry. And I got so angry at one point. I'm like, and started just kind of like yelled at everybody. And there's only 2 other of us in the car, and it became like Cade has to eat. If we don't feed Cade, he will become really angry.
Somebody carry Snickers bar.
Yes, exactly. But you have that, and you look back and the fondness of it all. I look at band camp, and I'm like, band camp was the best time of my life. But I'm like, dude, band camp was rough. That was really rough.
But yeah, dude, the nostalgia of it, man. You just think like that was the best time.
Exactly. It really does. So y'all had every so often y'all would have a fight, or you said you would kind of go in silence, or you had your audiobooks. What stuff did you listen to? Like what kind of music, what kind of podcast? Did you come out on the other side being like a guru of the knowledge of 18th century literature?
Man, so I want to be a Navy SEAL. So I was listening to, it's a man named Jocko. He does a podcast, ex-Navy SEAL. I listened to so many of his podcasts, just like getting hyped about being a SEAL. And then I listened to a lot of Kenny Chesney.
Okay.
I think his Golf Moon album. I can't remember what it's called, but Golf Moon's on there. But his album came out mid-trip, and I loved it. I have a lot of nostalgia with that album. So it was a bunch of randoms, a lot of Disney. I love Disney music.
Nice. That's cool. I have the nostalgia with, I was in Ireland when the Adele 21 came out. And so all the kids were singing it. It was always in the car. So I have that nostalgia anytime something pops up. Hey, look, it's Adele. Like
that's awesome.
like,
It brings you back a little bit.
Yeah, that's the cool thing of having that kind of association.
For sure.
And so, especially with listening to all the podcasts to get ready, to go into the Marines, you're like, you know what? Like,
for sure, dude.
Get the knowledge, get the stuff kind of there in place.
Yep.
So what kind of diet did you guys do along the way? Because you got to stay hydrated. You got to have the protein to keep kind of moving.
Yeah. So I get low blood sugar. I got a blood sugar problem.
Hypoglycemia or something?
Hypoglycemia. And all we brought with us at first was protein bars. And you get sick of protein bars quick. And so
you eat the same food over and over. You get sick of it.
So the second day we had not eaten much because we ate a salad in Jamestown because that's all there was. And then The next day we had nothing, and except protein bars, and I wasn't eating them because I was sick of them already. And I got really low blood sugar, and so that actually happened a couple of times. But we learned to carry Powerades on us at all time, two or three, and then we carried a bunch of tortillas and goober. You know what goober is?
Yeah.
The peanut butter and jelly
exactly.
mix.
I love those little stuff.
Carried that because, if it gets wet, it's in bags, so if it gets wet,
It doesn't
it's not a big
matter.
deal.
Yeah.
And then Twizzlers, a lot of candy. I mean, we ate a lot of junk too.
Well, you need that for have like a senior
Exactly.
to change the coming
That's what
up
I
and
told
down.
myself, but really, I just love them.
Justification, man. Justification.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. We just carried a bunch of junk food because you're burning so many calories. It really didn't matter.
True.
So we enjoyed ourselves.
And I bet with eating along the way too, drinking the water to combat, I bet y'all are sweating like crazy. How much water do you think you drank in a day?
Oh man, good question. So this was another thing where like you just learn to be thankful for what God has provided. Have you heard of the Chosen series?
Yeah, I have.
So
I have.
it's basically a
I haven't
reenactment.
read it, but I've like
Yeah, it's a reenactment of the Gospels, and Jesus sends out his disciples, and the disciples are like, shouldn't we bring food and water? And he's like, no, I'm going to teach you. This is what he said in the show. It's going to teach you to appreciate leaning on others and leaning on your Father, your Heavenly Father. And so we were kind of doing the same thing because every time we got water, we found water, like even just use somebody's hose or somebody's sink or something. It was like this awesome, great big deal. So, anyways, back to your question. We drank, it depends. Like in Kansas, I drank probably 5 Powerades a day just because you're sweating for that one day.
True.
But besides that, just 2 bottles. You really weren't, because you're not going that fast. You're not really getting your heart rate that high unless you're going to pills.
That's surprising with like the heat and the wind kind of.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on where we were at. If it's
again,
really hot, we're drinking.
You were
a
flying
lot.
by the seam of your pants too, so you're like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
We can get it.
Whatever happens.
Yeah, whatever. Did you get ever extremely like, sunburnt, or did you have to?
To Kyle did, like
Remember
that day I was telling you about where we went. We ended up going 130 miles that day. Where we just skipped towns because we didn't have a place to stay. Kyle got so sunburnt. He looked like those candy corn because we had shirts on.
Oh, just
so
like
he
little
was so
sections.
red, and then he was white. I mean, it was pretty funny.
Oh, I can believe that. And getting sun blistered, and
Yep.
wind blistered from all. You can't stop wind
Yep.
burn. Like when that's coming through, you can't stop that.
True.
And it doesn't matter if the sun's out one day or not. The sun's always going to be beating down you in some form or
Absolutely, man.
fashion.
It doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, it just depended.
Did y'all ever have to deal with like the bugs, like kind of like during the summer heat of like gnat? I know in Georgia we have all the gnats and stuff.
Yeah,
going
that's a
through or
good
anything.
point. We never did. We never dealt with really any.
You dealt with a raccoon though.
We dealt with a raccoon twice. One stole my food one time,
Oh gosh.
and we dealt with a fox
Ooh.
that we thought was something else. But we didn't really have any nature issues, which was pretty nice.
That is very impressive.
I was very paranoid sleeping in the hills in Idaho and Montana because I thought we would be eaten by bears. But we had no issues because we slept with our food close. We were,
Well, yeah, you
it was
keep
too
everything
dumb.
close to you.
You're supposed to put it far away. But no, we had no issues. So it was pretty good.
That is amazing to think that you didn't have that. The bikes. Did you ever have any issues with the bikes? You said you had to put 3 tubes in one day because at the beginning of the trip.
Yep.
Did you have any other issues with the bikes along the way?
No, so after that, we had figured out that's the tube situation. And then we had one other problem with we didn't even have a problem with our chain. It was just they were so loose from using them.
Yeah.
That we had to get a new chain. And when you get a new chain, it's tighter and it throws your gears off.
Oh yeah,
you
it's
gotta
hard.
Yeah, you have to find a new rhythm. So that was it, but no really bike issues.
Man,
So we were very fortunate.
you got very fortunate
We were very
going through
fortunate.
these things because I know a lot of people that have all the struggles
Oh
in
my
the world.
gosh, dude. We met this dude named John. John ended up being one of our best friends on the trip. He biked with us for a week or so. And he left home with $100, which was gone in a couple days because he had to eat.
Easily.
So he had no food. So he would stop at gas stations or restaurants and either search the trash cans or the garbage cans or, the big things out back. He'd either search for those for old food that they've thrown away or he'd ask for them
At the end of the
if
day,
he
or
could
something.
work. Yeah. Or if he could work for them to earn food. And then he also brought this bike that he had in like third grade, like that, those old mountain bikes with the horns on them and
Oh
stuff.
my word.
And his derailleur broke, which is what shifts. So when he was out on the West Coast, when he was about to go up a hill, he'd have to get off his bike, move his chain up to the next gear,
In order to be able to
and
keep
then
going.
bike. And then when he gets to the top, move it back.
That's impressive
Dude, he was
dedication
a
right there.
freak. He was funny, man.
So along the way, did y'all pick people up that you said he rode with y'all for a couple of days?
Yeah, it was. I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah, he was, and it was awesome. It was like having that third person again to ease the tension. And dude, you met so many people. So there is companies that take people on these trips, and you pay $10,000. You meet them here. They carry all your stuff from site to site. They tell you where to go. They set up your accommodations and things. And we met them a group called Adventure Cycling, and we made some good friends, and we still keep in touch with some of them. And yeah, dude, you just meet so many people when you're out there. So many people help you, take you in. So
Well, you didn't need the $10,000 one. You did it in $3,500 and saved
I
yourself
know
a lot of
exactly.
time.
Save myself $7,000.
What would you do differently if you were to go on this trip again now? If you could pick, we'll just go with 3 things. What would be 3 things you would do differently?
First one, I'd still bike with somebody. I would actually 3 people. I would say 3 people is a perfect amount. So I would, we had 3, but I would take 3 again. I'll count that as 1.
They're like, seriously, that's 1.
My second one is, if it is just 2, even 3, to bike separately. Everyone should have their own map, and you can have days where you bike together, but the tension comes during the biking because one person's going fast and the other person doesn't like it or something like that. So bike separately, just enjoy your time, and then meet up at night and enjoy each other's company then. There's no issues there. But there are a lot of issues when you're both trying to keep the same tempo. One person wants to go look at this monument or something. The other person just wants to keep going. One person wants to get up at 7 and go. One person wants to get up at 10, So
That's
those
just
little
having
things.
smartphones makes it easier to
Yes,
communicate.
exactly. And you can still be in touch. So that's the second thing. I don't know if I had a third thing. I think that would be it.
You never
I
know
think everything else worked
where it
out
kind of
pretty good.
goes.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So getting 3 people, keeping with that one, and then just kind of biking separately.
Biking separately, yeah. Taking time for yourselves. For some reason, maybe my third thing is this. Release your anger.
Okay.
Talk to the person that you're angry with. Because me and Kyle are so passive that we were just clearly passively mad at each other. Like, we wouldn't talk to each other for a long periods of time. And then only twice did it explode. But it did explode. And we could have
Fisticuffs,
No,
kind of deal.
not like that, but yelling at each other, calling each other's name, And it did explode twice. And we could have prevented that by just communicating with each other.
Yeah, if you would have got ahead of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you do this again?
Oh my gosh. For sure. I hope I can do it again with Kyle or with my son or with some friends, but yeah, I hope to do it again.
How old's your son?
He is 16 months now.
So you start planning that now. You got time.
Hopefully I'm still as motivated when I'm older.
You will be
when
if
he's
you,
older.
with your personality and you've got all this stuff there in place. That's the one thing. Your personality is just like it's like above here, and that's you go into my alumni Cherokee High School. You're gonna go crazy over with those kids and having that stuff because that's the one thing that kids pick up on is your personality and like, are you excited? If you're excited, I'm gonna be excited because if you're coming in kind of talking like this, they're not gonna pick. They're gonna pick on it. They can smell the fear in you, kind of in a way.
He's scared. Get him.
Exactly. Jump on this.
Jump on him. That's funny. I appreciate that.
What would be the knowledge that you really heavily did not expect to pick up from this trip that wound up changing your life?
Oh, let's see. I wrote it down here because I did see that.
It's always good to make notes. For those that don't know, I sit back and I write down answers, maybe not answers, but questions in order to guide me back around. Having your notes together really does make a big difference.
It does.
And just to remind you of where that thought process is, because when you're hitting record and you're going, you got to have something to get your head back into play.
For sure. Yeah, so this is what I think I've learned. Uncomfortability. I mean, I learned a ton, but this is one of the biggest. Uncomfortability can be the best place for God to work in your life. And I think we live in a culture that's so pursuant of comfort and happiness and these things that sound so good, but I think there's something better. I think being uncomfortable makes you thankful, it makes you appreciate things, and it makes you realize your need for God. So like when we first set off, like we had no idea. We were so uncomfortable. We had no idea we're getting food, where we're getting water, where we're getting shelter. We're wet all the time. We're freezing all the time. But man, we prayed and we trusted in God, and every time that he would provide or even not provide. I remember a time in Kentucky, I'm like, he's almost providing too much, Kyle. Like I feel like I'm starting to become entitled, and then he stopped providing. And I was like so thankful, man. I'm like, thank you,
Humbling you right there.
Yes, dude. So I think pursuing things that are uncomfortable is a good thing. And God really works through that. So I want to continue to do that, not get into the trap of just pursuing
The monotony of
Exactly,
kind of
dude.
getting to the same
Exactly.
routine. That's this summer. I'm, just taking a trip by myself and going over to
Yes,
Europe.
exactly, man.
And I got to get out of my comfort zone. I put out like 15 applications to all these different places around the world of like, where am I going to wind up? What am I going to wind up doing? I need to take this trip by myself. I need to do something. I'm going to wind up at a Buddhist monastery meditation retreat kind of deal
That's
for
awesome.
3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be. Let's go do
It's
this.
so
And
crazy. Such an adventure.
exactly. And who knows what it's going to wind up giving you and teaching you along that way.
Exactly. Like you will, at the end of your life, you will never remember a summer where you're just staying at home waiting life by,
Exactly.
But
Last
you'll
summer
remember-
I recorded so many podcasts. I'm like, this is the
Yes,
summer
dude.
of trip.
Exactly. You remember tough times. You remember things that you go out of your comfort zone for.
It's so true. And that's one thing that is, I think I say this almost on every podcast, of there is two things in life that I always say you need to be able to remember. And I tell my students, before you leave my classroom, there's two things you need to learn. There are three sides to a coin, and just because it's different doesn't always mean it's wrong. And if you look at the situations that getting out of your comfort zone will make you maybe think about that other perspective.
Yes.
Or will open you up to a new whole entire idea of like, you know what? That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
For sure.
And so that's, the world can be able to do all this for you.
For sure, dude. And not to get too spiritual with it, but like when you are so comfortable, I think comfortability takes away or it blinds you to how much you need God. So when you're uncomfortable and you're going through tough situations, I think it awakens something that, oh my gosh, I'm just a human. I can't do anything, but God can do all things. And so, I don't know, man, there's just so many upsides to being uncomfortable, which is such a
true. It's hard,
weird
but it's so true.
dichotomy.
Now, you're writing a book about
Yes.
this. Is this going to be something that you're just doing for like journaling for yourself? Or is this something you're going to publish?
This is a good question. I don't know. I'm not a great communicator, Mr. Curtis. And so,
Says the guy that's been talking for an hour and going through all this different stuff. You're a great communicator.
well, this might be cringe to some people, like, oh, please stop talking.
No.
But
This is perfect.
so I'm not a great communicator. I'm not a good writer. So it's taken me 3.5 years to write this. I've completed the rough draft. But it's taken me 3 years because I've gone back so many times and I'm like, that does not sound right. So it's taken me forever. So to answer your question, I will let some people that I really trust, who will be honest with me, read it. And if they think it's valuable or could be of value to people and that it would be something someone would want to read, then I'll publish it. But ultimately, it's about the bike trip and it's about spiritual lessons that God has shown me in the trip. And so, I'm sharing that with Dawson, my son. So it's actually to him. The book
that's
is
cool.
the book is kind of written to him. So ultimately, that's what I want out of it. But if I did publish it and I made some money off it, that'd be great too.
Next thing you know, 2 years from now, you're now touring around the United States, telling about your book and kind of making this whole big
That would
giant
be,
picture about
man,
it.
that would be a dream come true. I don't know.
You never know what the doors are going to open up for you after it kind of goes through.
If that happened, I'll come back and we'll talk about it on a podcast.
We'll have a part two. I'm always open for part twos, part threes. At the end of the day, this is, as I tell, this is not my podcast. This is your podcast. This is your episode. All I am is a tour guide along this adventure, 100%. In the first book, they say is the hardest to write anyway. So like whenever you're writing through, because you're new to writing, you're new to this whole process of the book, and kind of going through the whole entire process is crazy.
Yep.
How long is the book currently right now?
It's about 230, 240 pages in book form. In Google, I wrote it in Google Docs.
Love
So
Google Docs.
It's only like 200. I don't know what it is in Google Docs, but in 300-page book form, which is typical, it's about 230, 240. Yeah, but there's some weird things I never thought about writing. Like when you write so much consecutively, you start to think like, man, I've used this word a lot. And man, I feel like I'm being very repetitious. And sometimes you are, or sometimes I am. But then when I go back and I read through, I was like, no, this sounds fine. It's just that I've been focused and doing this for so many days in a row that it just seems that way. And I listened to some podcasts and I heard other people have the same problem. So I was like,
we all do.
It's interesting.
I have words that I say over and over again that
Yeah.
I never imagined. And when you hear your voice back, you're like, wow, I say a lot or a
Yeah,
lot.
you don't even know.
And now I can look at the screen and I know exactly after 53 episodes, I go, someone just said there, or there's an coming right up ahead, or here's a breath mark where someone took a deep breath. And you can, after you do something for a while, you start to kind of pick up on that. And getting in the classroom as well, whenever I transition to certain things, I know the word that's going to come to that point.
For sure.
But that's kind of the glory of it. And you're in a great time of writing as well, with having like things like Grammarly that helps with grammar stuff. And
True,
having
man.
all those
Very
things.
fortunate. I don't know if I could do it if I was just, writing it down and figuring it out.
That is to me, that is the best thing to have is Grammarly. You can sponsor us, Grammarly, if you want to come in and give us a sponsor.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on.
But Grammarly I pay for the premium every year and it's worth it.
All right, well, I didn't even know this was a thing, honestly, so I'll have to look into that.
You're going to need to look into
Grammarly.
that. It's great I use it for writing emails specifically because with my reading and writing disability that I have to go through it makes things actually sound legit.
Really? That's all. It's funny. So we're going on this missions trip to the Middle East, and I'm writing some letters to raise some money. And literally, it's just a letter. It's not very long. And my wife proofreaded it. And there was so much wrong with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, babe, you're going to be so busy.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the editing process now. I'm editing myself the first time through, and then I'm going to have her edit it. You're going to be really busy if this is how much I mess up.
I have my wife look over everything before I put something through because she has that grammatical knowledge and have that stuff in place. And she goes, Kate, this makes no sense. Like this makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay, you need to clarify this here. In college and high school, I'd have my mom look through my papers to kind of help me out in order to make sure that this has in place. Because having that struggle and being able to work through it, but having that support makes it so much easier.
Dude, for sure. For sure.
I'm not great coming up with titles. My titles are kind of bland.
Oh, me neither. That's another thing, because I'm taking notes. Someone please tell me a title for this, because I have no idea.
It's kind of bland. So shout out to like my wife for helping get things kind of sounding in place. Shout out to my friends for like listening through it before I put out a podcast, being like, hey, like listen to it if you want to, don't have to listen to it, and being able to sit back and actually like, okay, take that out. That doesn't sound right, or that does sound right. But take out like 2 or 3 words.
Right.
You have to have that extra voice there.
Dude, for sure.
You really do.
But it shows a lot about you, man. You got the humility to listen to that, because some people have the arrogance to not listen to it.
Dude, I listen through every episode, and it takes anywhere between 2 hours to 5 hours to edit every single episode.
Wow. It's good for you, man. You're dedicated. That's awesome.
It's also like a little OCD-ish.
You do a great job, though.
Like light. So what's next for Mark Noble? What's next? You're writing this book. You're thinking about being able to go through and maybe do a trip with your son. Like, who knows how many years from now? Like, you're going to Cherokee High School to teach.
Yeah.
What's the next step here?
That's a good question. I'm in a weird phase of life. So I was at Goshen Valley, which is a group home.
I'm gonna have a link about that in the middle. Great organization.
Great organization. For a couple years, and they provided housing. So we just got out of there. And we were living with my in-laws until we can find some housing. Couldn't find any, so we're building. So we're building a house. I'm transitioning over to teaching. That's it, man. I'm just trying to be a good dad and be a good steward of what God's given me. So nothing too exciting.
Have you ever thought about going back in and maybe going to the ministry or starting up some Bible study kind of portions, maybe become like a youth pastor in some sort of fashion?
So, man, I truly believe that people are called to those things who are gifted. And I have some buddies. I have my father-in-law is a great pastor. He's a missions pastor. Honestly, side note, but one of the cool things about him is like, you hear these bad raps of these preachers who are one people at home and the other person. It's like, my father-in-law is the same person. I'm like, that is just a rare thing that you can say about a pastor.
This is true.
But no, man, I think God has called me to work with kids, especially in the school system with how broken it is, and to speak into people's lives there. And so I want to be bold and speak into kids there, and even proclaim the gospel if I have opportunities. But yeah, I think that's where God's called me. So
You got
I'm excited.
FCA and a couple other different ones. that are
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
there.
And so I'll try to get involved with those over at Cherokee.
And you're going into high school range as well, where that's
I'm excited about that.
every age range has its own different
Yep.
little quirks and stuff like that. But you're really starting to see kids starting to create their own identities at another level before
Yeah.
going into that adulthood, and they're starting to get exposed to all these different ideas, and it's awesome. Like,
The nice thing about high schoolers is they're at least starting to listen.
True.
8th grade, like I told this kid, he's failing all his classes. I'm like, what do you expect to do? What do you think you're going to do after school? You know, there's not going to be a lot of options if you want to do something. I'm not trying to put him down. I'm just trying to give him perspective. But it falls on deaf ears. He doesn't care.
True.
Because he's in 8th grade.
You're going to get
forever
pushed
away.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
But high school, people are starting to think about things, and I think they can take advice better. So I'm not much better. You know, I've worked with high schoolers at the ranch,
Hey,
but
we all have things, the skills
Yeah.
that come in, and it's
But-
going to be a whole different world when you get there. What you think it's
Dude.
going to be, it's going to be totally different.
I believe
in
it,
those
man.
first couple
I
years of
believe it.
teaching is drastically different than you ever thought, because it's trial and error. Because I have kids that came in to my class, she goes, Mr. Curtis, you're just so chill. You're so like, you've got this down. You're listening to all the kids. I'm like, dude, if you saw me 10 years ago, you would be like, this is not the same guy. Like,
Man, that's awesome. God's working in life,
yeah,
man.
It does, but you have to be learning. You have to be open to learn. You have to be open to this. You
Yeah,
have to go
dude.
through that struggle of you start out at some points being militant and like yelling, and this is the order, this is the rules. Then you like realize, man, I need to like cut loose and like have some order, but gotta be willing to be loose on some things.
I'm
Because
with
if I
you,
just
man.
push,
It's got to be good balance.
yeah, it's got to be that. And coming from Goshen, you really do have that, a lot of that experience there in place for that. So it's gonna work out nicely for
Yeah,
you
dude.
in the long run. It's
I hope so. I'm excited. I'm excited to do it.
as you should be. Now we're gonna start kind of wrapping down here. There's a lot that we were able to look at and cover, but what's something that you're like, hey man, you never asked this question, or you never like mentioned something about this. What's something that you want to throw out there that you want to cover that I didn't?
Let me see here. Oh, I just have one.
Here comes Zinzin, one of the cats.
Oh, hi, buddy.
Dude.
All right, yeah. So there's one more story that I thought. There's a lot of interesting stories that will be in the book. I got into I've never been in a fight, but some guy fought me for no reason.
Wow.
But a lot of weird. We almost died one time. I won't get into that. But one I thought was funny was the day Dylan left the second time.
Okay.
This huge rainstorm. Kyle and I lost him. We didn't know where he was, and we were biking, we thought he was up ahead of us. Never found him. And so we had a decision to make. Do we go to this small town of Carbondale, very small town, 500 people, or do we continue another 10 miles to a bigger town that we knew had a park? So we decided, like, look, we're too tired, we're exhausted, it's raining, we'll just take our chances. Hopefully we can find a place to stay at this small town. So we're sitting in this bar, ordered food, just me, Kyle, and the bartender. And we're drenched, and we're just chatting. This old guy walks in, and we all start talking, and it's 11 o'clock by the time we're done. And the lady says, you know Mason Ramsey? Are you familiar with Mason Ramsey?
No.
So Mason Ramsey in 2018, the year that we went on this trip, blew up from being the Walmart yodeler, if you remember that.
Oh, the kid. Yeah, the little
Yes.
kid.
So he
Yeah.
he put out a #1 that year. And this is months after that he put out the #1 or something like that. So he was big at that time. And yeah, she's like, this man right here is his manager and grandpa.
What?
Yeah, we're like, no way. And he's like, yeah, would you guys want to come stay with us? Like, no way. So we went and stayed at Mason
Wow.
Ramsey's house.
Wow. Is he still around doing stuff?
I saw he put out a music video a couple years ago. It wasn't bad, but I mean, it was a live and die. It was a very long career. I don't know if he's still making music, honestly.
You know
But
what?
it was still cool. It was like, man, we know this kid, He's famous. So-
That's always interesting. You never know where you're gonna run with
I
people
know,
along the
man.
way.
It was
Allow it to
bizarre.
lead you. Allow it to lead you.
For sure.
Like that's the cool thing about it. Is there any last things of words of wisdom that you want to put out there in the universe? It could be something about, hey man, look at this piece of legislation, or save the trees, or something like that. This is like your platform to say something
Yeah.
that you think is something that we should maybe take a look at, or just words of wisdom to kind of put out there into the universe?
I do. And I was thinking about that last night because I thought you might ask that. But first, I want to thank you for my time with you at Mill Creek. Awesome time, even though I'm 6 months into
Dude, 1 month can change a life.
Yeah, dude.
2 days
absolutely.
can change a life, you know?
But what I appreciated about you was the way you handled kids, the way you treated staff and faculty. It's evident that it's more than just a job for you. It's not just clocking in and out.
It's life.
And man, dude, I appreciate that. And I aspire to be like that, man. So I appreciate that. And I want to thank you for that. And then also for thank you for having me on this podcast. I mean,
dude, it's amazing. I would have never thought how, go on out, bud. Sorry, Zinzin's being one of his little oddities. But no, you never know what people are going to pass into your life and where they're kind of go. And getting to share that as well with you, it showed me a different approach of you can be able to come in and towards the end of the year and be able to make that kind of change. And you agreeing on a short term. We made this decision 3 days ago that you were going to come on the podcast. I had mentioned, you're like, no, 3 days in. So no, thank you, because that's the best gift that you could ever give somebody is your time. You can't get it back. It's always going forward. And you did that. And I never knew anything about this story. Like literally, guys, I'm learning the story as you are right now listening to it. And that is just phenomenal. If you never know what's in your backyard. You never know what's across the street from you.
Very true.
And being able to kind of have that goes a long way. And I learned that you like little bites and the little muffins,
Dude, you hooked me up. For those you don't know, man, Mr. Curtis has brownies and those little pies.
Yeah.
And I was hungry a lot during the day, and he hooked me up with boxes of them.
That's the shout out to Joe for I help him out with the bread route, and I was like, hey man, we're coming into testing. I need something for snacks, and I mean he's like, here's like all these Takis, all this like
man,
little
awesome.
bites and all this stuff, and the kids latch onto it. And I always keep snacks in my rooms, and I always keep stuff around because if you never know, some kids just need it real quick.
Yeah,
that need that little get up. And I tell my kids before they go over, I'm like, if you need it, get it. If you're just wanting a snack just because you see something cool's there, don't get it. Save it for someone that needs it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, outside of that, if you need it, go get it. Like, I'm not going to question you after that. I'm just going to say those words and then go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you just threw them at me, and I was like, yes.
Hey, it was getting towards the end of the year, so it's always good just to make sure they don't rot in the summer. And I don't need to eat them in my household. I try to get better about that. But no, thank you. Like, going back across,
I appreciate it. It shows your humility to sit down. But so I did want to share this. I was thinking, what is the most important thing that I could tell someone who's looking to learn? And this is also what we shared with the people that we met on the bike trip. But what I would say is this: the only real thing that matters in life is what is true. All right, so my life journey is to pursue truth because nothing else matters. What's true about you? What's true about me? What's true about life? Everything else will pass away. Even like our opinions and our feelings and our house and our wealth and our popularity, whatever it is, everything's going to pass away, as it has for billions of people before us who thought, man, I'm going to have this forever. But it passes away. But what will remain is what's true. And this is what I believe to be true. I believe that the good news of the gospel found in the Bible is true. So what is this good news, Mr. Curtis? You and I, and everyone who has ever lived, is sinful, not good, and do not meet the standards of God. Which doesn't sound good, but it's true, right? I live for myself. I want what's best for me and not for other people. I lie, I cheat, I steal, and I think a lot of people do, right? Everybody's got their issues. Because of this, we're separated from God. But here's the good news. Are you ready, Mr. Curtis?
Do it. Drop it.
In the form of man, God sent his son, Jesus, who lived the perfect life, died the perfect sacrifice that I should have died for all of my sin, and rose again 3 days later so that whoever believes and repents will be saved. And so it is not a popular message, right? But if it is true, it's the only thing that matters. I don't say this, I know this gets a bad stigma nowadays, and I don't say this, like, think about where I'm coming from. I don't say this pointing my finger down at people, like, you must do this, or whatever, calling anybody a bad person, being judgmental. But if it's true, the most loving thing I can do is to tell people, like, just like we told people on the bike trip. And so that's why I'm telling your audience now, like, if it's true, like I'm pleading with you to look and see if it's true. Because if it is, you want to believe and you want to turn and trust God, and be saved. So that's all I got for you. But I appreciate you.
Powerful words, man.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you letting me share. And this has been honestly a blast. You did a great job at making me comfortable because I was so nervous coming into this. I'm like, I do not think very well linearly. I don't explain things well. So you've done a great job. You've been a great host.
That's great to hear, of those kind words of going each way with that things of wisdom. That's the cool thing, that everyone has a voice, and you should use your voice to be able to share something out there. And if someone doesn't agree with it, let's have a conversation.
Dude,
let's talk about
that's
it.
great. That's
Like,
what I love about you and your podcast. Like, you listen to people you don't agree with, and that's how it should be. I shouldn't be angry at you just because I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
You come from a different perspective. So
True.
I want to see your perspective.
That's the
'Cause
three
what if
sides
it's-
to a coin deal.
Exactly. What if it's true? Then I want to know that,
Yeah.
So, man, I appreciate that about you and your podcast.
That's the cool thing, that I feel like this is years in the making for me of doing this podcast, because I've been collecting stories and listening to people's, like, just kind of that joy here for, gosh, decades now. And I finally decided I was going to, do the podcast kind of deal. And it's opened up my eyes to so many new things. And
That's awesome.
some people are like, why don't you monetize? Why don't you just go? I have no desire to force that. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But this to me is the favorite thing for me to do in my life, is to hear someone's story, because it's the best gift you can give somebody. And when sitting across the table from you and seeing you light up, seeing that, like, whole entire, your voice change, like your demeanor of that, and that relaxation here is just, it's my favorite thing in the world.
That's
because
awesome,
I know
dude.
that you are in your happy place.
Right.
And so many people die with a story inside them. And some people are not willing to
Wow.
sit and listen
Yeah.
to that. And it takes asking the question, and it takes sitting down and willing to engage them. Because I could have sat across from you and just gone, check, hey, what's this next thing here? Check, what's this?
But it's very organic. What you've done is very organic.
That's the best part about it, is it's supposed to flow that way. And I think that's my gift
Yeah,
to
for
the
sure,
world. And that's something that, has been given to me that I get to pass on.
Yeah, dude.
So,
You're being faithful with what God has given you.
yeah, indeed. So as we wrap down and we come to an end here, if you want to reach out to me, I'll pass on information to Mark Noble. If, we feel like if you just randomly send an odd email that doesn't make sense, okay, I'll kind of respond back to you and put it back. But if you want to get in contact with him, I'm going to be that kind of in between, just to kind of protect his time kind of range. So if you want to reach out, the email is Cade, which is spelled CADE, at learningfromfriends.com. I also have a Twitter page, a Facebook page. I have a Patreon page if you'd actually like to contribute to the
Ooh.
podcast. If it's $1, $10, $1,000,
$1 million? Whatever you want to throw out there.
exactly.
Come on.
At the end of the day. So if you want to be able to do that, feel free. I recommend send me a message over posting, just because I feel like that's a little more intimate to it as well. Just be able to have a message. So free feel to reach out to that. Communication is a lot easier now than it used to be.
Yeah, dude. I'll say this. I love talking about the bike trip, and I love talking about God. So if you have any questions for me, you can reach out through Mr. Curtis, and I'd love to talk about it. So
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
So my name
Also, I might be your
my bad.
first monetized advertiser or whatever. So if I end up publishing the book, I'll pay you to be some advertisement.
Ooh.
So there you go. I could be the first one for you.
There you go. You never
First
can
of
tell.
many.
You never can tell for it. So
There you
as
go.
we leave here, my name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that I like to call Learning from Friends. And most of all, don't forget, let your curiosity fly high.